Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a recap of our 2022 hunting season. Everything from going out west to back home and everything in between. Just wanted to kind of go over all the successes, mistakes, goals to accomplish, all that good stuff. Feel like a lot of people don't do this, and just kind of want to give you a recap of the season and let you know how it went. So to start off, we will go over the number of sits and sightings I had this year. Start off with number of sits. I had 49 different sits, which I would note every hunt in my phone as the hunt was going on. So I would note a morning sit versus an evening sit, so that would count as 2 sits in the same day, or an all-day sit would just count as 1. And total hours on stand was around 200 to 230 hours on stand this year. For deer sightings, saw 230 deer, 60 to 70 pronghorn out in Wyoming. And then we saw a ton of birds. Saw a lot of bird activity actually this year, which was pretty cool. Saw all kinds of hawks, sparrows, owls, all that kind of stuff. Seemed to see a lot in Ohio and also in Bama. And then we also saw other wildlife like a few coyotes, some bobcats, which if you watch the Bama video, I got a really good video of the one bobcat that I should have shot in Bama. And all in all, it was a very successful season. So I wanted to go over a couple of the goals I accomplished this year that I set for myself. The first goal was to finally be successful out west. This was the 3rd year in a row I've gone out west to try and fill a tag, whether that be mule deer, elk, or pronghorn. And Dad and I finally were able to have a successful hunt in Wyoming and kill my first pronghorn. It was awesome to share that experience. Me and Dad were very excited, and just an awesome time out there. Saw a ton of animals, and great time to be out there too. Early October, it's not too cold or hot, and it was just it was just perfect. So if you haven't seen that video, go check that video out. I was also able to harvest my first deer out of a saddle. I've been hunting out of a saddle for 2 years now and hadn't been able to connect with one out of the saddle, and did it also out of a prototype platform that my buddy and I drew up and tested out, which was really cool. It was a perfect shot as well. The doe only went about 30 yards and got great film of that, and it's also on the channel, so go check that out. And then one of the other highlights was definitely getting to hunt with close hunting buddies this year. Sloss, if you have watched videos in the past, Sloss comes here every year for our annual gun opener here in Indiana, and so we got to hunt with him. You know, he's like an uncle to me and like a brother to Dad, and we always look forward to that trip together. We always have a blast and have hunting camp here at the house, and it was also very cool to be with him, to actually watch him take his first buck with me, and get video of it, as well as doubling out of the same stand after I took a doe that morning out of that exact same stand, hunted it all day. So very cool to share that experience with Sloss. Love when he comes, and he'll be back for turkey this year, so we're really pumped for that. I also got to hunt with my good buddy Parker, which was another cool thing this year. I know a lot of us, you know, we all get caught up in kind of hunting by ourselves and hunting special spots and private land, public land, all that good stuff. But Parker and I actually got to hunt a lot together this year at this piece of Kentucky public that we've been hunting together. And it was really cool. We actually had a whole like 3 or 4 days of hunting out in Kentucky and camping out there together and hunting from his John boat on the river. And that's also on the channel, but it was a lot of fun with him and had a blast the whole year, just, you know, bouncing ideas off each other and basically hunting the same spots together and just making memories. And then as well as this is year 2 of us going to Alabama and hunting with our Alabama buddies, and can't thank them enough for having us down. It was another blast this year. No bucks again, but took some really nice does and even got to swim that one across the creek. So if you haven't checked that video out, go check that one out. That was a lot of fun too. And then the last goal, which is a goal for me every year because I'm such a big bow hunter, is just to harvest a deer with my bow. I just really always want to take one with my bow every year. Luckily I was able to do that this year. I wasn't able to do it last year, so I was very thankful to be able to do that. Okay, the hard part now. The mistakes. I wanted to highlight the mistakes I made this year. I'm not perfect, and there's always room for improvement, and I wanted to highlight a few of the mistakes I noted after looking back at all my hunts throughout the year. The first would be not having arrow nocked no matter the scenario. Dad and I, the first week of October, we had a big cold front come in, and we hunted a double stand at our one property for the first time, planning on taking a few does off the property. Dad was supposed to be the shooter first, and I was just going to be film guy. So I just had my bow hung up without an arrow nocked, and Dad had his bow with an arrow nocked. And we ended up having an epic hunt and had these 3 great bucks come walking in behind us. And the big one, the really big one, was broadside at 22 yards right behind the stand that I could have easily shot, but did not have an arrow nocked and couldn't get an arrow nocked in time. They were coming in and never got the shot. And then they actually ended up having an epic buck fight that you should really go check. It's on the channel. Some of the best stuff I've ever seen in the deer woods. By far one of my favorite hunts of all time. Top 5 easy. And just absolutely insane just to see it happen that early and not be in the rut. But really, really hard lesson learned there. I could have had a great shot at an early season buck, a stud 9-point, and just didn't have my arrow nocked. So always have your weapon loaded if you're in the stand, especially if you have tags to fill. The next one would be not going with my gut. We hunted Kentucky a lot this year, and during the rut, I left one of my areas early one evening and kind of did a scouting mission as the evening went on, just slowly walked my way through spots, and then I ended up hearing deer chasing on a hill not far from where we had walked in an area we never checked out before. And I originally told myself I'm going to go hunt that next time we're there, but then Parker ended up finding some other sign and stuff and had better success at a couple spots, so I decided just to hunt with Parker on these other areas and kind of disregarded this spot. Well, come to find out, 3 weeks ago I went and scouted that area because I knew that's where the deer were chasing. I wanted to just see what it was like. Well, there was tons of sign there. I had found like 3 or 4 huge scrapes, a mega rub, and just all kinds of trails and stuff crisscrossing through there, and really regret not going in there. So don't be afraid to go with your gut, especially if you think it's a good spot, and if you see deer or hear deer in there or just think it's a possibility, go check it out. It's worth it to check it out, and it might be the spot that gets you to fill your tag. Next would be making sure you stop the deer before you shoot, especially with a bow. So if you haven't watched this video, this is early season Kentucky Velvet bow season. I had 2 bucks come on me like the first week in September, and this really nice 8-point came in, and I had my bow drawn back, and I was all ready, and the buck kind of looked high, like a little bit on alert, but not bad. I didn't even I was already pulled back before they got to like right when the window where I could shoot, but he kind of looked at me and knew something. And I thought I was right on him when I pulled the trigger right behind the shoulder. And when I pulled the trigger, this buck took 1 step forward and then also jumped my arrow, and it caused the arrow to hit back in the guts. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to recover that deer. But I didn't try to stop him or get him to just stay still for a second. I thought he was calm enough that he wasn't going to take a step, and that was a big mistake. It definitely caused the arrow to hit way farther back, and if you watch the video back, you can kind of tell the arrow is heading right on the perfect trajectory, right behind the shoulder, and just that 1 step forced it to go right in the guts. So always stop your deer if you can before you shoot, especially with a bow. And also make sure you aim low. I aimed low enough, looks like it hit perfectly mid-body, but just didn't stop him for the shot. Next is practicing with my setup more. I think this is something everybody should do. I think a lot of us also tend to not do it as much as we probably should with normal life things getting in the way before season, but I found myself sometimes struggling in certain trees and things like that when I was climbing up in my saddle setup. And I think those could have been mitigated by just practicing more in the summer or leading up into the fall, or even in the winter, just practicing on different trees to understand what bark works, what doesn't, how to climb around limbs, all that kind of good stuff. I think I found myself struggling a couple times, especially in the early mornings, trying to find my gear, get it in the tree, and that kind of thing. So I think that was one of my other things I could definitely improve upon, and a mistake that I just did not practice enough to be more, efficient and quiet in the stand. I mean, I think I did pretty good job, but definitely could have some more room for improvement there. And lastly is practicing with every weapon you plan to use. If you guys watched our Bama video, You'll note early on in the video, the first evening hunt we hunted, I had a really nice doe come in, and I brought my 44 mag handgun with me to see if I had a deer close enough in handgun range, I was going to use the handgun over the rifle because I love hunting with my handgun. But to be honest, I didn't really practice with it this year that much. Just kind of figured that, I've done it before, I've killed deer with it before, I could do it again, don't need the practice. And I think that was a mistake, because originally I thought I made a good shot on this deer when we first did it, but then we looked back at the footage after that night when she went into this really thick stuff and we let her lay. We realized I hit her farther forward in the shoulder and looked like it could possibly be in no man's land, and ended up tracking the deer for over a quarter of a mile, almost half a mile, and just then losing blood and just basically determining that the doe probably survived because it was hit so far forward. And I really think I could have probably, made a more ethical shot if I had more practice. I mean, I wasn't far off, you never know when your adrenaline's running like that, but I definitely think I could have practiced more. So that's one thing I recommend everybody do. If you know you're going to use a certain weapon, make sure you get some practice in with it and are very confident with it to make an ethical kill, because we owe it to that animal to make the most ethical kill possible and not cause them any suffering. So definitely do that. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about are some of our successes, or things I think we did really well, or I did really well this year. The first thing was playing the wind and access. In years past, we wouldn't do this. We just go and hunt and just pick a spot and just walk in, not focus on the wind or how to get in there or anything like that. This year, we really focused hard on that, making sure we accessed the correct way, hunted the right stance on the correct winds, not going in there until the wind was absolutely right. And I think it really paid off. We had probably the most deer sightings we've had in a long time, and also like mature deer sightings too in a while, being able to see them on the hoof in daylight. And I think that was mainly because we hunted the right winds at the right time and accessed correctly. Another thing is, this kind of goes along with those, is hunting way smarter. In years past, I would hunt every opportunity I could, no matter what the weather was doing or the wind, and just hunt, just to get out there, and thought that was all it was, is how many sits can you make? Well, this year, I changed that because it didn't work for me last year, and decided to just hunt way smarter. So this year, for instance, Kentucky's opening week was some of the worst weather we've had in a long time for Kentucky opener. It was storming, nasty, just nasty weather the whole opening weekend into the opening week. And I didn't even go out once because it just was not good weather. I decided I wasn't going to risk it, ruining my spots or anything. Just let the deer do what they do. And ended up only hunting 2 sits to finally, the second sit I ever hunted that time, and hunted a perfect day that was like 50 degrees, the first decent, cool day of the year. Had that nice buck and get a shot opportunity. Again, first cold front of the year, when we had the epic buck fight. We didn't go into that spot till that day when the cold front happened, and ended up seeing like 30 deer that day. Had that awesome, mature bucks out there, the epic buck fight, and, almost got a shot at one. Again, we had another second cold front come in a week later after that, and that's when I killed my doe and actually almost got on another big buck. So we definitely realized how important it is to just not, overhunt your areas and just hunt to hunt, and really focus on hunting when the weather's right, the wind's right, and making sure everything lines up correctly, because you don't want to go in there and ruin your spots. And the last thing I think was being versatile and changing tactics on the fly. Parker and I, especially for Kentucky, we hunted from saddles, we hunted from the ground, we also accessed by hiking in, and then we'd also used his John bow. We used all kinds of tactics to get in and hunt, and I think that was very helpful this year with us. Just because you gotta be able to hunt, certain areas you might not be able to get in a stand, like the one day we had where we actually hunted from the ground behind this gigantic tree right on the riverbank where our wind would blow down into the river, and there just wasn't a good tree for us to hang in, so we just hunted from the ground and ended up seeing like 13 deer that day. And then other days we would bring our saddles in and pick trees to hang out of the saddles. So I think that's the one thing that, everybody don't be so set on hunting out of a saddle, out of a hang-on, out from the ground. Just hunt when the right, thing is needed, and use, that tactic, whether that's a ground blind, a saddle, a hang-on, a double stand, anything like that. And but lastly, just to say, overall, it was another great hunting season. I never take them for granted. I am blessed to get to hunt as much as I do. with my job, and especially the people I get to share the woods with. I'm very thankful that I get to share it with Dad and all my good close friends and everything, and can't wait for the next one. We're right around the corner. It's already March, and turkey season's along the way. I got my Longbeard shirt from MWTF, met the Hunting Public guys, and we're jacked for turkey season. Got some new hats in for turkey season, and we're ready. We hope you all are too, and hopefully we'll get some turkey content out here soon, and we'll catch you on the next one.